interesting report for you today on the topic of compound semaglutide. Now, if you are new here, welcome. I am your host, Dave Knapp, ManOnMounjaro. That's why I'm here. You are on the pen. Wegovy, Saxenda, Victoza, Trulicity, Mounjaro, Jetbound, that pen, compound. And compound is the topic of the day today, and I cannot wait to get into these numbers to you. This is an On the Pen exclusive. If you want to get the full article, you can go to OnThePen.com, where there is a post, all the links, and the actual file that I'll be referencing here in this video are available at OnThePen.com. But y'all are not going to believe this. So previous estimates, hey Donna, hey Sue, previous estimates were that there were roughly 2 million people relying on compounded GLP-1s in the United States. And this past week, the Outsourcing Facilities Association basically submitted a letter to the FDA, and you are not going to believe the numbers that the Outsourcing Facilities Association cited for people using compound semaglutide via 503A and 503B pharmacies. Now, the OFA represents only 503B pharmacies, where they have said that they're estimating that they are currently serving around 2 million patients with compound semaglutide alone. That's just 503B facilities. That doesn't include 503As. But when you throw in the 503A facilities as well, check this number out. The OFA disclosed that 80 million prescriptions for compound semaglutide alone were filled in the past year. Again, that's between 503A and 503B pharmacies. We have to take a closer look at these numbers because, again, 2 million was the number that we had previously heard for total people on compounds around the last year. Now, to understand how 80 million prescriptions translates to patients' usage, we have to look at the prescribing patterns for semaglutide. Yes, this is for just semaglutide. These are staggering numbers. So monthly prescriptions is how they're typically doled out in multi-use vials for compounds, right? So each prescription covers a 1-month supply of semaglutide. At 12 prescriptions per year for patient, because most compound pharmacies up until very recently, with a lot of the uncertainty, offered 1 month at a time. Some did offer 3. But at 12 prescriptions per year, a single patient on a full year regimen would use about 12 prescriptions annually. Based on this standard, if we calculate that out, 80 million prescriptions divided by 12 months is approximately 6.7 million patients. That means some 6.7 million Americans potentially relied on compound semaglutide alone at some point in the last year. And this is not even counting tirzepatide, right? So we're just simply talking about semaglutide at this point. These figures highlight an incredible demand for semaglutide and the vital role, the absolutely, even now with this information, more than ever, a vital role that compounded medications play in meeting patient accessibility. So let's put this into perspective. Novo Nordisk has significantly increased its product capacity, their capacity for production for semaglutide-based medications by tripling its GLP-1 patient reach to approximately 11.5 million people over the past 3 years. Despite these efforts, the demand continues to outpace supply, as evidenced by this 80 million compounded semaglutide prescriptions filled in the last year. It indicates that compound medications are serving a substantial portion of the patient population. So when we look at the people living with obesity in the U.S., looking at some Center for Disease Control and Prevention numbers during August of 21 to August of 2023, the prevalence of obesity among U.S. adults was 40.3%, equating to approximately 104 million individuals. Again, the links to all this information is available at onthepen.com. We will drop this information in the description of this video. If you wouldn't mind hitting that thumbs up if you're enjoying this live stream. This data completely underscores the important role of compounded medication and really the indispensable role of compounded medications when you think about these huge gaps left in patient care by the branded medications. Without compounds, and this is sort of what's at stake right now, without compounds, millions of patients would be left without access to treatment, and this is why it matters. Branded semaglutide remains unaffordable for many. We know that's a huge issue, right? It's not the main issue that compounds exist, but when branded medications priced at over $1,000 list price, many people are priced out of the market. And because even at that price, Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly can sell everything they manufacture, compounded versions offer accessibility to the millions of people living with obesity in the US that otherwise may not be able to afford the medications at all. The other thing is supply gaps. We don't know. In other words, there's no clinical trials that tell us what it means for people who have to skip a month, people who have to go back a dose or up a dose instead of the normal titration process because there isn't an adequate supply of branded medication. These medications, the compounded versions of these medications, represent a stopgap, a backstop for medications when there are not enough commercially available of the branded versions. The continuity of care is a super, super important thing, and I think a story that will be told later on as they maybe look at the implications of what people have to do to stretch out their doses, to skip a dose, to go up or down a dose, simply because of the accessibility or lack thereof. So as the FDA considers drug manufacturers' reports that are going on right now, as the OFA and the FDA are locked into a legal battle, these numbers serve as a crucial reminder that there are millions, literally millions of patients who rely on them, and any regulatory decisions that the FDA may take to limit accessibility to these would be devastating. It would be devastating to people living with obesity. We saw obesity rates decline for the first time in my lifetime this year. Why is that? Well, it's largely on the backs of powerful and effective anti-obesity medications. And as these numbers tell us, an even larger number than we thought are relying on the compounded versions of these medications. So, demand is going to continue to outpace the supply. I could see a world where even 503Bs and 503As wouldn't be able to keep up because the prevalence of this issue is so large, and the opportunity to educate the rest of the world on the availability of these effective treatments is so vast. So this just underscores the need for access to safe and affordable alternatives to the branded medications, because the branded medications will never be able to meet the demand of the need that is facing the world, but especially the United States of America. So we will continue to cover this very closely at OnThePen, and as breaking news happens, it is super important that you follow along at onthepen.com. If you do onthepen.com/emails, you'll get email alerts. I am just about to add this video into the article that we did today for this very thing, where we've linked a lot of the source for the information that we gave you today. It's very important, if you think it's important, to stay on top of breaking information on GLP-1 medications and news like this. Sign up for email alerts. We never know what's going to happen on these platforms. These platforms have all the power. And so we want to take back some of that power by growing our community at onthepen.com/emails. If you're already on the emails, put emails in the chat. Thank you for being here. Hit that thumbs up button before you go. Drop an emoji in the chat that is a representation of what this news and this data meant to you today. For me, it's this one. I cannot believe 80 million prescriptions, and we're not even talking at this point about compound tirzepatide. We're only talking about semaglutide. So amazing, staggering numbers. You heard it here first from OnThePen. You're not going to see this anywhere else in the media currently. That's why it's so important that you follow OnThePen, and make sure you subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Hey, Emmy, how are you today? Donna, welcome. Thank you for being here. Kara, Sue the Dude, Violinda, welcome. So glad to have you here. So glad that we can have this wonderful community to share this information with. I hope that you're all doing well. Have a safe and wonderful weekend. Mimi, Thelma, thank you for being here, and we will catch you on the next one. Thanks for hanging out.